Hey everybody out there, glad you are watching today. This is Ronnie Bincer, the Hangout Helper. I'm helping you today with a couple other really wonderful people that I'm going to introduce in just a minute, but I want to set the stage as to what we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about the videos that are created when you make Hangouts on air. What do you do with them when you're done? Because what you're doing, not only when you're doing this live, but you end up with a YouTube video automatically created by the tool called the Hangout on Air broadcast. So it's really kind of neat in the fact that you've got a video, but now what are you going to do with that video? You can post it inside your social media places, and a lot of people do that, and it's good. But you can also put it onto your own website, your own property. Now let's talk about your own website versus being on a social place. I personally spend a lot of my time inside Google Plus because I'm so focused on the Hangout tool, and that's native to the Google Plus platform. But I do need value to show up on my website because I have more control over what's going on with my website. However, there's a movement almost of some people moving into the space where they're actually doing less and less activity on their website and more on social platforms like Google Plus. And Google Plus is almost like a blogging environment for a lot of people. I personally think you should do both. However, I'm spending the majority of my time on Google Plus. So I need to get some value put back onto my website. And because of that, I try to take a lot of my activity that I do with my broadcasts that turn into YouTube videos and put that onto my website. So that's part of what our show is going to be about today, is primarily talking about taking the video and utilizing it or repurposing it so that it's part of your website. Now, another perspective is using your website to host the live broadcasts. That is a wonderful topic, and it's for another time. So we're not going to spend a lot of time specifically on that, although I know Stepan might mention that, or Lori might as well. But these are the things that we just don't have time. We're going to try to keep this to a 30-minute show, and I know we've got a lot to talk about. We want to bring in your comments live, so while you're watching this, please feel free to ask questions and comments, and we'll bring them right up onto the screen. So now, without any further ado, I'm going to introduce the two people that are also here in the film strip with us. Let's start, ladies first. We've got Lori Laser.
Yes.
Lori, say hi to everyone, and why don't you tell folks what you do briefly, and then we'll get into the details later.
Okay, sure. I'm Lori Laser. I own a business called Customized Walls, and in addition to that, started a community here on Google Plus, interior design community, when community started, which was pretty amazing. We're up to 21,000 members now. And I also work a little bit with a Hangout on air analytics tool called Plus My Reach. So a lot of things going on, very busy. But I am interested in this topic because, you know, it's all about, for me, it's all about that marketing. You can get a certain amount of people on the Hangout when the Hangout is live, and that's great. But it's the after the Hangout is over that's such a valuable piece of content, and I wanted to be able to stretch that through, you know, putting it on my site, emailing it out, sending it out through social media. So we do a lot of different things to bring viewers, and you know, definitely getting it on the site is one. It's very valuable to me because I need those emails, right? And I think we're all in that same boat. It's like if Google Plus went away tomorrow, I still want to keep my contacts.
When you say need these emails, you mean you're using your website to gather people's emails because you have a newsletter for them to sign up or something else, right?
Yeah, I think that's a majority of, you know, blogs out there, is we're trying to capture those email lists. You know, we're trying to make sure that those customers can come back and we can contact them again and show them if they're interested in one Hangout that you're doing, the chances are that they're going to be interested in more. So to be able to reach them in their inbox is really, really important to me.
All right, let me bring up another topic, and then I'm going to bring Stepan in so he can comment on this. There's another value proposition for why your website's important to hold these videos. It's the SEO value, the search engine optimization value. Those keywords that are going to be automatically part of what you're talking about with your video are going to be semantically rich stuff that
Absolutely.
is going to help it show up in the search. So Stepan Ovnanian, how did I do?
That was perfect, man. Better than my mom.
All right, Stepan, please tell folks what it is you're doing here, and let's get right into the discussion about the videos on your site.
Yeah, thanks, Ronnie. Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody. And All right, so yeah, like Laurie, I have my hands in a bunch of different things. I've written some ebooks about Google Plus called Google Plus Pro Tips. There's four in series now. I have a couple more planned. I host the weekly Google Plus Business Spotlight with my buddy Ben Fisher from Steady Demand. We basically talk about how real businesses are using Google Plus, and we also bring on people. Laurie's been a guest. We talk about a variety of different topics to give people some action steps in case they want to make Google Plus a bigger part of their marketing plan. And but I come from this is why I'm really excited about today, because I come from a web background, and my core business is web design, website management, things like that. And so, in fact, I guess when I started on Google Plus, the idea of Hangouts and the idea of sort of not brain dumping, but being able to bring to the surface or have a platform to be able to bring the things that I know as a web professional to help people build, better, smarter web presences for themselves. This was a great platform, and Hangouts just amplified that even further because now I get video content. So my original blog, which is websitehangouts.com, ended up being that's what it was for. And a few months after I started, the whole Google Plus thing kind of took on a life of its own. And so now, I've built up a bit of a reputation for that. But at the core, like I said, I'm all about how we can take this exact topic, how we can take these videos that we're making today, build our authority with them, connect with a live audience if we can, and then build up that trust and reputation face to face using this technology, which is phenomenal, and then put it onto a place where it has a little more of an extended shelf life, like our website.
Yeah, I was going to use the word shelf life. There's another thing that a lot of people either don't realize right away, or when they do, it's almost like it's too late. Let's talk about it right now. When you have a long show, that takes time for people to watch, and people don't necessarily want to spend all that time watching a longer show. You're going to see more and more people, just like what we're doing here today. We're trying to keep this in a shorter time frame, meaning 30 minutes. Well, I came from a background of video SEO, and video SEO way back in the day, 30 minutes was way long. We talked 3 minutes. 3 minutes was about as long as you wanted a video to be. So when we have these conversations, it's really hard to do anything in 3 minutes. So when you get to the point where you're making a Hangout on air and you're talking about 3 topics, it's very likely that you should be able to take that one video that it created and slice it into 3 separate videos. And then that slice and dice is what sometimes we call it. You can put those on your website and use those to build articles. So there's so many ways you can take your Hangout on Air video content and repurpose it that we could go on and on and on. But today we're going to try to talk about at least my perspective for now, and you two bring up other ones if they're different, is I want to take my full show that I just am doing right now, and when we're done, I want that to be visible on my website so that people can find it. Now, I've gone about doing this in a very rudimentary, basic thing because I'm not that big into HTML coding and things like that. I'm just a guy that loves Hangouts. So I want to get some value onto my website. So I'm going to do a screen share here in a moment to show you what I've got. And I have a question for Stepan. Let me just ask it to you. Do you, when you're doing these things, do you cut things up into smaller segments, or do you just keep the main full video?
Well, our show is a half hour as well, 30, 35 minutes sometimes. So I tend to keep it in its full length. But what I've been experimenting with is actually the recap. So instead of just sending to somebody to a page that has no text on it, or maybe just a little bit of information about the the event, maybe when it aired, whatever, I will do some kind of a recap, some action, some takeaways, some maybe, and I've been playing around with what type of format that recap should have. I know a lot of people here on Google Plus, we do timestamps just because it creates a cute little shortcut link when you do the minute, second timestamp when you share a video. You can actually skip right through. I think that's great. You can't really do that on the web, but I also think that in some respect people can just read what happened and then say, okay, I'm done. It's 2 minutes long. I'm out of here in a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I got the gist of the conversation. Now I can go. So I've been trying to experiment with ways where I can still add value to somebody coming to the page and entice them to watch the show and watch the show in its entirety. And some of the things I'm doing is actually breaking it up. I'll take 2 or 3 topics and say, okay, at the 15-minute mark, so and so started talking about this, and here are a couple of ideas, whatever, and it's more narrative. And then, you know, a paragraph later be like, at the 23-minute mark, instead of like this happened every 3 minutes, I'll take 2 or 3 sections. I'll kind of chunk it out into some of the main themes. Talk about when they started. This way, if somebody's watching the video, you know, maybe they'll fast forward to that spot, listen to it, but then most likely stick around and watch the rest. So that's my current strategy. I don't know if it's going to play out. You know, it's only one show a week, so it's going to take some time to build up enough data to actually make an informed decision. But that's what I'm doing right now. I don't know. I like the way it reads, at least. So
okay, cool. Now I've got a screen share on right now, and I'm going to bring up some of the comments that are going on that are related to what we're talking about in a moment to bring our real interaction here with our Hangout. But this is, for example, a very basic page where what I've done is on my website, I have selected the broadcast that I'm involved with, that I'm making, and I've got the visuals, meaning I've got a video embed of the most recent one that I'm trying to highlight right there on the top of the page. And as we go further down, I've got a table. And again, don't complain too much. This is my best that I can do for now. That basically lists when the thing happened, who was the featured guest, what the topic was, and that's the title. And if you'll note here, I could click on that. In fact, I'm gonna, and that'll open it up right there inside YouTube. So it's actually able to be played right from there. And this is the beginning of what I'm doing. I'm still new to the concepts of what I'm trying to do and just haven't worked it all out yet. Later, I'm going to want this link to go to a specific page on my website where I'm talking about this specific video, and I'm adding in text around it so it becomes a search engine rich page. I just do too many. As you can see here, I've got sort of a list, and so I'm not going to go through it all. But I have too many going on right now to do all that all at once, so I do my best to just kind of keep track and allow people to have basically a directory where people can come and grab and view those particular videos. Plus, I have a link back to the event, so if I were to click on that, because a lot of what I do takes place inside the Google Plus world, here's the event where that particular video lived, so that people wanted to, they could see some of the commenting action that was going on inside that event. So that's my real basic look as to what I've got going. Lori, do you have something you'd like or could share with us about what yours looks like on your end?
Let me grab a screen share here. I'm just going to give you my desktop because that's easier.
Okay.
So we've got my Hangout, which is in the blog. I'm signed in, but interior design community, obviously right here we've got our subscribe to our newsletter, and then the blog, just, you know, the blog piece, and this is sort of what we were talking about, and this also can sometimes go into the email as well, our email marketing. We have about 5,000 email subscribers, so mostly interior designers, and so we want to reach them, and we actually, I have one up here. This is sort of one of, like, you know, how we would send this email goes to the subscribers, where they can click and they would go to different blog pieces or different Hangouts. This was, like, for instance, this was a Hangout, but these are blog posts, and we try to include no more than 3 or 4 in these.
No more than 3 or 4 Hangout on Air videos, is what you're saying?
No more than 3 or 4 like articles within our email marketing.
Okay.
And I tend to like to, when I can do it well, I like to invite them to the next week's Hangout and recap the last week's Hangout in the email marketing, if I can do that, if I've got enough time to do that. But overall, my strategy is obviously to get those emails, because I want to keep those people interested. I want to be able to keep reaching them when we're doing other things too, maybe not on a Google Plus Hangout. So that's and I use Yoast. So I just go, if I were going to edit this post, I can show you the plugin that I'm using. I go into the plugin, I just sort of make it as, you know, I put it in as a video. So when I have my keywords down here, focus keyword, monetize your blog, and then I upload this as a video so that it comes through on my homepage as a video.
So maybe I'm missing the point on there. Is it a video embed from YouTube, or is it actually hosted?
It's a video embed in YouTube, but I do it through the app. I mean through the plugin. So it's embedded, but there's a way to do it within this plugin. I'm trying to find exactly where I put it, but
when you say Yoast and the plugin, are you talking about just Yoast SEO plugin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the WordPress SEO Yoast. They have a way that if you're making this into a regular post versus a video post versus
Stefan, jump in.
I know what that is. So that's HTML5, and what you're doing is you're saying this page is hey, look, there's me. This page is a video versus an article or a recipe or a map or something like that. So you can identify the type of page that your web page is or your blog post is. And I'm pretty sure that's what that is. And the reason you do that with HTML5, and it's like schema data, that kind of stuff, and it's all this techie markup basically to tell the search engines and the social networks that are crawling these pages what type of page it is, and then they may display it a certain way in their results, or they may handle it a certain way when they recommend it to the people, to their audience. So that's why that's probably what that is. And since you're uploading a video, there you go. So like you might get the thumbnail, the video thumbnail actually in the search results. Although I read yesterday that might be going away.
Yeah. It's always changing. So the takeaway there is you're using your blog or your website to build email lists, and you're using the Hangout on Air videos as content to encourage people to come to the website. Is that basically?
Yes. I mean, we do regular blog posts too, but we have this great piece of content once a week. I don't want to see it die. And unfortunately, Google Plus is a fantastic platform, but how many of us are experiencing much interaction after the Hangout? Not much. Not many of us. You've got your Hangout. You did this really, really informative piece of content, and then it sort of just dwindles off. And I want to be able to, bring that onto my site, give it another life, maybe find another audience that isn't on Google Plus, and it's not just sitting there not being used. And I actually share out my blog posts to LinkedIn groups, on Pinterest, on Twitter. I get a ton of traffic from the LinkedIn groups because they're very specific. I can go into ASID, which is the Association of Interior Designers. I can go into Bloggers for Design or some of these other organizations for interior designers, and my topics are geared to that market. And some of these communities have 100,000 people in them or 20,000 people in them, and I get traffic that way. And it's definitely my goal to have those people eventually come and join us on Google Plus too. So it works as another way to bring more life to that video.
Right. So let me bring in a couple comments that are coming from the stream that we're talking about. We'll bring this up from Wayne. He's asking, should one chop up existing videos of Hangout on Air and place a link back to the original Hangout video? So that's a valid perspective, and think of it this way: the smaller videos are acting like teasers to the main video. Now, where is it you're pointing to is the big question, right? Because are we pointing back to our website that shows the video, or are we pointing to the event that started the video, or are we pointing to the post of the video that was on Facebook or on Google Plus or wherever? These are part of the conversations that you're going to sort of need to work through. So, Stepan, I got a question for you. When you do this, and now you're pinned, you're the man. When you're doing these things on your website, and maybe you want to show us some of your some screen share, where are you promoting after the fact? Are you promoting back to your website? Are you promoting to YouTube? Where do you try to encourage people to go?
So I have a couple of things that we do, right? Here's the website, Google Plus Business Spotlight. And as you can see, we have, front and center. I want you to join the email list, and I even have a dedicated sign-up page for it, which kind of sets up our value proposition. And in there, I flat out say, here's the cold hard truth: if Google Plus ever changes up the way they handle event invites, we're going to need this, right? We're going to need to be able to connect with you. So there you go. That's kind of a best practice. So there's like a little bonus for you guys. Have a dedicated sign-up page. But beyond that, this is a blog, which every episode has its own thing. Here's the one we did yesterday with Ifat Cohen, which was amazing. And it actually looks a lot like Lori's. I just have the basic information here, which I pull from the event page. And I embed the video. I throw because it's a Google Plus related talk, discussion. I have the short codes for the badges for our guests, and then I just pretty much put in tips. I give shout outs, and then we share it. Excuse me. Now, I also have widgets to follow us on Pinterest and circle us on Google Plus, subscribe. So the whole idea here is, if somebody comes across this page, this blog post, right, from some other distribution mechanism, I'm going to come back to me. But if somebody comes back from, through some other distribution mechanism that they're more comfortable with, right, Feedly, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever we're doing to get, or even YouTube. And by the way, within YouTube, when this blog post goes up, I go back to the YouTube video, and the first thing I write is the link to the blog post. So now I update the video description to make sure all roads, in my case, I want all roads pretty much to point back to the web page. I did a little bit of experimenting and just tracking, and the event activity, the event page is much less valuable after the live event. So I'd rather focus everybody coming here. But anyway, but yeah. Your RSS feed goes into Triber, and you can get a bunch of tweets and LinkedIn shares and things like that. You put these things up on Pinterest and now and Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. Now you can share it, and if people come to the website, they're more familiar with this, right? They're more familiar with the web page. You're not taking them to this foreign page on Google Plus, even though we can. That they might feel uncomfortable with, and if they're not logged into their Google account, they're going to get this little pop-up across the top in black that says, hey, log into Google. It's a little disruptive, but on a web page, they understand that. Those have been around for 20 years. So for me, this is a way to help engage that audience that's outside of Google Plus and get them interested enough to see what this is all about, and maybe join the email list, and at that point, or share it on Google, wherever. But interact with us, activate in some way, and then I can start to form them a little bit, maybe get them to become more comfortable with attending the live show, and if they're logged in and they comment, then we have a nice enough, an intimate enough audience at this point where we tend to know the regulars, and we also tend to give shout outs to people whenever we can that are interacting. And if there's a newcomer, it's like, hey, let's roll out the red carpet, thanks for coming, how'd you find us, that kind of stuff. So but you land one person like that from somewhere else that just happened to pop on, and that's phenomenal. Plus you never know what kind of business opportunities you get out of it too. Right.
Let me bring up another content that I know specifically, because when I have a publicly facing website, and I also have a membership website. And so there's real value here for me, and I know a lot of people out there that also have paid membership environments, that there's a huge amount of value when you're doing content for that specific community or your subscribers, that you can take this video that you've got and put it behind your paywall. So that brings up sort of this question or comment that Jim Gould was asking: do you ever convert the YouTube recording to unlisted so it can be viewed by members only? I don't use unlisted. Unlisted is one of those things that people could easily just share the link. So if somebody's paying for the content, I will actually keep it private and make it harder for people to find for free, because it's something that others have paid for, and I need them to get the real value out of it. So what I actually do is I don't even stay in YouTube. And this is going to maybe sound sacrilegious to you, because I'm the Hangout guy and I love Hangouts, and they automatically go to YouTube. But when they're done, if it's something that's made specifically for my private membership group called Hangout Mastery, I download that file and then I upload it to Vimeo Pro, because Vimeo Pro gives me the option to control where the video can be viewed, and to me that's going to be important when you have that specific of an environment where you're not publicly broadcasting for everybody to see, but it's a specific thing that's for your members. Think of it that way. But I don't want to go too far into that world, but the point is, whether it's a public website or it's a private type of website, the concept is take your videos that you're creating with these Hangouts on Air and bring them into your website so that it can add longer value for a longer period of time. Because just like these other guys in Filmstrip are saying, the event is a timed thing. People may come back to it, and I'm still amazed, at least on mine, because of the content possibly, that people are discovering it even a long time after the fact, but the majority of the activity happens while it's live or within a couple days, and then it dies down. And would you guys agree that that's what you've been seeing as far as timing?
Yeah, I would.
I think so. I think so. But I think that it does definitely. We do get quite a few hits when we send out the emailer. So we do that a week after, or about a week after the Hangout was on. So it depends where the traffic is, and where we're getting the hits. The initial bump is always great, when it's live. And I love the social interaction. I love the fact that we're doing it on Google+. I'm probably not as excited about putting it on my website and bringing people there to have it, because I love that it's social. But after, it's a great piece of content, and I want to use that and extend its life. So, and the other thing I wanted to mention that you were talking about, but I have an opinion about it. I think, Ronnie, we've been on Google Plus for a long time, and a lot of people have talked about, you can make these hour-long videos, and then you can edit them down to these little tiny videos. You can take one video that was 60 minutes and repurpose it. And I mean, we're a couple years into this, and still no one does that, because it is a tremendous amount of work. I mean, I even talked.
We talk about doing it, and we say it's a good idea. Yes.
But it's nothing you can do consistently, because it's extremely time-consuming. A Hangout, I want people to consider that a Hangout should be what it is, and that if it is a half-hour video that is an interview, leave it as a half-hour video.
Let me bring something up to tie in with that, because this is something I'm starting to do from a membership site for sure. Is when I do training from a membership site, I actually start the video, give an introduction of what it is, and then stop, even while we're still live, and I'll say, and I'll start it again. I say, I hope you don't mind, but this is for the sake that it's going to make it easier for me to chop this into little pieces, and now it's ready to go with this 3-minute intro, and then the rest of the show. And that is really valuable, I think, not only for a membership site, but it might be very valuable for people watching live. Because honestly, I saw someone, I forget where the comment was, saying, I wish he didn't say, that sounded like a pirate, sorry, this was I hate this. The fact that it just doesn't automatically start when the video broadcast goes, you have to hit the play arrow. So someone might miss the very beginning. So in my mind, there's nothing really wrong with doing a little bit of an intro of what's covered, and then starting it all over again. So then you can easily trim away some of that, the rest of it, and just have your little intro video. And that's just sort of maybe a method that people could start to adopt with it, and it takes less effort to do the editing later on.
And possible. I also know. Oh, go ahead, Lori.
It's just so I consider it so time-consuming, and you're trying to make it into something that it isn't. And I'd rather see people pull the audio and make it into a podcast, because I think that's much more doable, much more, and then you can put the commercials into it. You can syndicate it. I mean, last year my word of the year was collaboration. I collaborated with so many different great people, including Stefan and you. But this year I'm talking a lot about syndication. You're making great content. A lot of people need great content. So how do you work with someone to be able to syndicate what you're doing, and spreading the message instead of trying to spend so much time making it into a 3-minute, which I think you could do. You could make little 3-minute videos also, but I think that that effort of chopping it, and I did look at Elance to outsource it, and I was told it would be about $200. And so you have to be able to get that value. Even if you're doing it yourself, you have to think it's worth $200 of my time. Are you going to get $200 back by splitting it up? And that's what I would think about before I do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Stefan, any final thoughts?
Well, no, Lori kind of hit the nail on the head. I was going to say that the real value, we were talking about pausing, right? So the idea of taking a station break and, a nice long dramatic pause like that would allow you to hop back in, or if you are going to rip the audio and do a podcast, you're going to see like a big flat line, and then it's just cut right there, and you can split it into two spots, or you can do something where you're going to do your commercials or whatever. I've actually been on Hangouts that are being repurposed to podcasts, and I was told ahead of time, all right, at about the 30-minute mark, we're going to stop, and I'm going to reintroduce the show. And because I'm basically cutting this thing in half, and then we're going to do our intro, outro, and we're done with it. And that's what we did. It was hysterical. But actually, I have to be honest with you guys. Like, if you are ever on a Hangout, or if you want to repurpose this podcast and you want to do longer things or whatever, and you want to break the Hangout up into shorter podcasts on purpose, the people who are watching live, they love that. It's hysterical. I can't explain it. But the times that I've been on shows where that happens, like, the comment stream just goes bananas. It's really funny. So,
Well, they're part of the process of something that's going to be used differently later, and it's like, that's kind of neat, right?
Yeah, it's really exciting. So, don't be. I guess the big takeaway there is, don't be afraid of it. If you are going to make this a podcast, you say, hey guys, we're going to take a 2-second break, dramatic pause, because I'm going to make this a podcast later, and then you cut that part out.
Okay, so we're going to wrap this up because I want to keep everyone to the time schedule that we've got here. What I want to do is point out to you, making videos with Hangouts on air is wonderful. You probably know that by now. That's why you're watching. The ability to bring those onto your website, you can do it very basic like I've done. You can get fancier like the other two guys have. The point is, try to bring some of your valuable content onto your website and then promote that. That's going to help you build your lists, your email lists. It'll also bring SEO value for your website, which in turn should help grow the value of your website. So that's the summary takeaway point. This has been brought to you by Hangout Mastery. It's a wonderful membership community. I'd love to have you join in, because if you've ever done anything with the Hangout on Air tool, you know that it changes. And one of the values that the community brings is to keep you up to date with what the latest and greatest stuff is. Plus, you get to interact with all kinds of neat folks that are in there also using Hangouts on Air together. So thank you, Stepan and Lori, for being part of it, and thank you, everybody out there watching live. We appreciate you being here today, and I'm going to end the broadcast really fast so that we're close to our ending time. Bye, guys.